Shalom. First of all, I'd like to start by giving all praises and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the Archeum doing this work in sincerity and in truth. This video is going to be entitled Great Britain on Edge, Civil Disorder. What we're going to be doing a video on today is surrounding in the case of a no-deal Brexit. The government has done a risk assessment in the case of a Brexit with no deal, and it's been summarized in a document. That document is known as Yellowhammer. All right. As I said, it's a risk assessment in the case of a Brexit with no deal. And in that document, the government has made an estimation, and in that estimation, they have expressed fears, disruption, and troubling impact on everything we take for granted, such as medical, pharmaceuticals, and food, fuel, etc. Pretty much every faction or business is going to be affected in the case of a no-deal Brexit. And, you know, doom and gloom is looming. All right. And pretty much everyone is in doubt of their, businesses living through a Brexit with a no deal. All right. And that's going to lead to civil disorder and discontent of the people, in which people start rioting and protesting against their governments. Now, on the screen, you can see a video which briefly goes into what Yellowhammer is and what the document Operation Yellowhammer entails. All right. It's a good watch. So just go on to YouTube and type in the title, which says the no-deal Brexit documents the government didn't want to release, and the video shall come up. So we mentioned civil disorder. So let's look at the definition of what it means. It says civil disorder, also known as civil disturbance or civil unrest, is an activity arising from a mass act of civil disobedience in which the participants become hostile toward authority, and authorities incur difficulties in maintaining public safety and order over this disorderly crowd. All right, which is a beautiful definition, in which we expect the people to turn against their authorities, because the authorities, the politicians and so forth, have done a terrible job of protecting the people of the country from what's ahead of them. All right. So the people are going to start rioting. Now, from here, let's look at the document. So from here, let's look at the Yellowhammer document and briefly look at a few of these bullet points. This is official sensitive. This is a PDF file. Operation Yellowhammer, HMG reasonably worst case planning assumptions. All right, so the government are planning on how to deal with these risks. Now let's look at the first two bullet points of this document of Operation Yellowhammer. It says, when the UK ceases to be a member of the EU in October 2019, all rights of reciprocal arrangements with the EU end. All right, in which we're not gonna, there's been an extension with the Brexit decision. So it's no longer going to be in October. But continuing on, it says the UK reverts fully to third country status. So economically, for a long time, an anticipated and predicted circumstance, the UK will be economically subject to the European nations, because they've decided to go it alone. All right, and the country will be hit hard because of this decision. So pretty much the UK is not going to have that same prestige as it once had. Now let's look into the definition of prestige. It says widespread respect and admiration felt for someone or something, i.e. the country, on the basis of a perception of their achievements or quality. We already know the achievements of Britain in terms of the economy was founded upon slavery. All right, and that had a big part, and even down to World War after World War II and one. Pretty much the devastation and the loss of life, they had to use Jake to fulfill those roles and jobs to keep the country afloat. All right, and Jake's had to fill those gaps. That's why you have something called the Windrush, which you can look that up, where Jake was basically made false promises of just to basically go and fight Esau's war, and when they got here, they pretty much were treated like shit. All right, but that's another subject. So anyway, Great Britain is gonna lose that widespread respect, all right, because they're looking weak, and the way that this politics of this country has been dealt with, it's pretty much in the newspapers described as a shambles, a Brexit shambles, right? And they no longer have that admiration, and Britain can't have that same pride that it once had, all right? And the perception of that greatness that Great Britain once had has evaporated over this Brexit issue. So from here, like I said, when you go into the document, you can go into it yourself. It bullet points, their assessment and predictions of what's going to happen and so forth, like it will say in that video that I suggested to watch. So from here, this is going to an article on Russia Today. It says Plan B UK government launches Yellow Hammer op as ministers prepare for potential no-deal Brexit. All right, and this is being spoken about on the news, and people are pretty much starting to wake up. Some are waking up to it and hip to the fact that they've been led in their emotions to their own demise, and others, especially some Jakes, man. Like, you say to them, look, you gotta hold on. For instance, I had a conversation with a relative, and pretty much said, I wanted to change my field job, so to speak, my occupation, and I was thinking basically it's a better idea to hold on to it to see what's going to happen with this Brexit issue. And we was discussing it briefly, but he wasn't really interested. His sentiment was that he don't believe that this country is going to be affected at all by the Brexit. If anything, there's not going to be no real risks or food shortages. At most, there'll probably be no strawberries in the country. And I was just thinking, Jake just is in gross darkness, man. And pretty much some Jakes that are living in that suburban, living that suburban life, got life going for them and so forth, man. They're not really concerned with, real hard underlying issues until things directly affect them, and which is going to, as we've described via this document. So pretty much, everybody's going to get a rude awakening when it comes to, these prophecies being fulfilled. It says, let's have a look. I'm going to scroll down this article. Pretty much I've said pretty much what this article is talking about, which is that Operation Yellowhammer. All right, yeah, I'm not going to really go into the article, man. You can go into it yourself if you want to. All right. But this looks like the direction that this Brexit is going in and what's going to come with it. All right, so let's just go to the scriptures. So from here, let's go to 2nd Esdras 16 and 18. It says, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. All right, it says a lot of pestilence is going to befall this place and around the four corners of the world, but mainly America. But we're starting to see these beginnings of sorrows because people stand to lose everything that they believed would continue or be passed down from generation to generation. The wealth that these Edomites have built generationally, their economies and their country, the development. They're looking to go to, as the document said, to revert back to being a third world country officially. So that's the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, and the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? All right. And we're seeing the beginning of war is economical. And once economies become threatened, things become lead to civil war and world war. All right, because pretty much each economy has an effect on other smaller economies, and it's a big effect. All right, which causes civil unrest. All right, so that's the beginning of evils, which evil means a bad time. What shall I do when these evils shall come? It's verse 19. It says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. So for correction, the Heavenly Father sends those things to correct the people. And great famine, which is coming to the UK, as predicted in the document, is a scourge for amendment when it comes to correct the UK, in which the UK has a lot to pay for, like I said earlier, regarding the transatlantic slave trade and their hand in the trafficking and the captivity of Israel. All right, you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and pretty much using us as a commodity and sending us around the four corners of the world. England was a very strong hand in our captivity. So they're going to get sent scourges of amendment, which is famine, plague, tribulation, and anguish. All right. So this is what the Brexit is. It's a scourge for amendment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of their scourges. No, because they think, in their mind, they think that things will just return back to normal, man. Things ain't going to get better. You know, this is the downfall of Esau's kingdom. And according to prophecy, you know, partly weak, partly strong. Daniel's second chapter regarding the statue of which Daniel went into, which was kingdoms, the breakdown of the different kingdoms and the succession of the first. Britain is that part that's weak amongst these European nations. All right. Now, verse 21, it says, "Behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case." All right. And pretty much right now, people, well, not right now, because of the Brexit issue, things have shot up in price. And taxes upon products and so forth have skyrocketed. And the pound has been devalued. So there's a time that they thought, yeah, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth. Yeah, those taxes. It's a bad time. Sword, famine, and great confusion. And this whole Brexit issue, you know, they say report is going to go in this direction. It's going to be, you know, the deal's going to be made by October 2019. Now they've decided to make an extension, and I think it's already been extended a couple times already, going back to Theresa May. So this thing is full of confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So leading up into World War III is going to be famine and difficulty of feeding families and finding sustenance, because you know, the whole trade food industry is going to be affected in Great Britain by this Brexit, and people are going to find difficulty in you know, at these different ports and trading with other countries because of interests and so forth. And different legislative systems in place for trading are going to be have to be relooked at and, you know, established. So that's going to create a lot of more confusion and difficulty. It says, "And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down." All right, so that's pretty much all I wanted on that, man. Like I said, ultimately it's going to lead up to a physical war, world war, which is World War III. And this is all according to prophecy. So keep an eye on the news, and we can see where this Brexit issue is heading. And these are just some of the topics. Some of the things mentioned in this video that the government are now considering, which is according to prophecy. In their estimation, things are going to get worse. So anyway, with that, until the next video, I'm going to say shalom. This kingdom's on its way out, man.